of victory and the agony of defeat.
Madison, great ball around the corner, Penasini, he beats them all! Junior Polar out wide, bumped away from Trindle, Sharks coming through, none of them can hold this!
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How is everyone doing on, I suppose, a relatively wonderful evening with the Parramatta Eels prevailing in the NRL, although there was a few palpitations along the way. And obviously
What
after results.
palpitation?
no cardiac arrest today.
That was the cruisiest victory you'd ever see.
Yes, indeed.
Come on, it was they did it easy. It was no dramas.
Yes,
no dramas.
Parramatta Eels prevailing by a solitary point, 19-18 in round 22. Is that what we're up to? 23 of the NRL, alongside an unfortunate loss in NRLW and some crazy results in the lower grades, which we'll also mention at the back end of our wrap up, Craig. But I am your host, John, also known as 4020. Joining me is the aforementioned Craig, also known as 60s, my very, very good mate in the blue and gold faithful here, as we look to unwrap a quartet of results here for the Parramatta Eels. Plenty of I suppose, drama and controversy to discuss, plenty of positives, still some negatives still. The Eels are far from a fully realised product by any means, and they certainly made this hard on themselves. Yeah, Talon De Silva's got a bit to learn, Sandy. You're absolutely spot on there. He copped a couple of gobfuls from his captain and halfback. We'll touch on that shortly. But before we get any further, we'll do housekeeping and a quick check-in on you, big fella. How was your day?
Well, it was a very full day, John, from our preview podcast appearance in Stirlow's, full house again in Stirlow's.
More people saying hello, Sophia and Dave. Hope we didn't embarrass Sophia too much, the poor thing. Introduced with her dad there.
It's Dave. Not our fault. It's always Dad's.
It's always Dad. Yeah, Dad, who you might recognise as Dave in chat, was up there and saying hello. And yeah, we tried not to embarrass Sophia too much, but I think we sort of put her in a bit of an odd spot there too.
But yeah, look, it's always great, and we say it all the time, but we really mean it when we get people come up and introduce themselves and say g'day. It really does make our day, and we do our best to remember everyone's names as well. But you're dealing with at least half of this team of 40 and I have a memory like a sieve at the moment, and that's me being of the advanced age that I am. So I've got my excuse ready, John, when I forget names. You need to have yours ready too.
Yeah, my brain is full, so when you put in fresh information, sometimes it gets jumbled up and falls out as well. So, But
John,
if we ever get the names wrong, we do apologise, but we have a lot of people come and say hello these days, and it is very humbling.
John, what a weekend of Eels football. You did mention, unfortunately, we had a loss in the NRLW, and we've still got the Harvey Norman women's team playing tomorrow night, and we'll get to the Harvey Norman, the NRLW result just shortly. I'm literally 5 minutes in from walking through the door after full time down there at CommBank Stadium with the NRLW. But let's start off with the NRL because, man, there is plenty to navigate tonight in that game. We're obviously going to talk about the Eels' performance, and we'll talk about some of the comments made by Todd Payton after the game. But
no salt there.
If you haven't seen the NRL roasts take on this, where he's weaved in the film clip of Will Ferrell talking about his plums, it's not to be missed. So do yourselves a favour, after you've listened to this podcast, after you've watched the podcast, not before, and go and have a look at what roast he's put up there. He's a good mate of ours, and we're always happy to direct people to go and check out the NRL roast. John, I know you've got a list to work through. How about we start there? Because I don't think you can talk about this game without talking about the officiating.
Yeah, there's an old mate from the tennis community that probably has a few words to say about this, and it's
Serious, man. You cannot be serious.
how many of those can we go through and feel aggrieved by? Because outside of like generalistic ruck stuff where there was some inconsistencies of markers and what, which always happens, Liam Kennedy had a Barry Crocker. We had, in no particular order, Cohen Hess not getting sin-bin for a cannonball tackle on Joash Papali. And while he was highly apologetic, and I do appreciate that, the mechanisms behind the tackle have been consistent with what we've seen being sin-binned in the, not just recent weeks, but this season. Riley Smith was penalised, and we challenged on the and I want to stress here that Mitchell Moses took the extra step to clarify that Liam Kennedy had ruled a strip, that the ball had been stripped out, and Riley was adamant he hadn't stripped it, so the Eels challenged on the basis that he had been penalised for a strip. The bunker completely changed the paradigms of which we challenged with, and said that he was crowding the ruck. So at the very least, we should have gotten our challenge back, and still got the beat. So whether you agree with if he was crowding or not, because I don't think he was crowding, we should have got our challenge back, because that was the basis in which we challenged, was a strip call. You had Jermaine Hopgood then get penalised shortly afterwards for the Cowboys dropping the ball cold in ruck because he was crowding, which, silly. Joash Papali was under assault in the air the entire game, was tackled multiple times in the air to no penalty, and including a try that was scored by the Cowboys. Well, I would argue that it was Jeremiah Nanai's best attempt at catching the ball, and he still came nowhere near catching the ball, like his arms weren't anywhere near the ball. It was a disruptive action. So what happened to being a disruptor or tackling in the air? You had the back-to-back runs from Joash and Mitchell Moses down that right edge in the first half that resulted in the Cowboys being caught offside and signed down the ruck and no penalties coming. You had Zach Lomax perpetually escorted. You had Trainergate 2.0, Eelectric Boogaloo, that actively disadvantaged the Parramatta Eels in a potential try-scoring situation that resulted in the Cowboys getting completely bailed out on a mutual infringement, play the ball, which is just ridiculous after what we just saw last week, and the fact that the NRL have not gone into act. What did we say? That this would rear its head again. The trainer could have avoided the ball, ran into it, prevented the Eels from making a play in a critical moment in the game. You had Talon Da Silva tackle.
And possession goes to the Cowboys.
And goes back to the Cowboys, so they learned nothing from the 2019 grand final. You had Talon Da Silva hit high not once but twice in the same tackle, and the bunker choosing not to intervene at all, despite Junior Barlow getting put on report for nothing earlier in the game in a far less aggravating or incendiary situation. And then you had the final play go up as a try, which is a complete misunderstanding of the obstruction rule and a catastrophic failure of the officiating process. We are lucky that Ashley Quine had the basic common sense to actually overrule that, because there was, based on all the other calls we'd seen today, that it was just as liable to go for the Cowboys in that one. So yeah, that was just a few of the incidents there. I'm sure there's more you could pull apart, chat, if you're being more of a fastidious marker. But they're the big ones that stood out to me. It was ridiculous.
And John, you talked about when we lost that challenge, because you immediately had that ridiculous lost ball by the Cowboys. I think it was almost in their next.
Jermaine Hopgood was penalised on Cohen Hess, where it was a complete loose play the ball, and we couldn't challenge because we'd lost the challenge. We hadn't been given it back despite the goalpost being moved by the bunker on based on what we were challenging, which is ridiculous.
Yeah. So that was 2 points there for
directly
a start.
2 points, yeah. And look, I'll be the first to say that the Eels also got a pretty gift 2 points early on in a penalty that went towards us that could have gone again. I could have been ruled a lost ball, but that was just one in the other column versus a whole string of terrible calls that were inexplicable, inexplainable.
What we're seeing here's what we're seeing consistently against the Eels this season. It is our fullback being tackled in the air.
Zach Lomax getting run off the ball consistently.
Lomax being run off the ball literally every time a kick is put up. Literally every time a kick is put up, it's like there is a circle the wagons around.
There was another moment too. This is something we've seen consistently too. I think Jermaine Hopgood got penalised at marker. And this was when they were in their own red zone, I think 10 metres out. We'd made a couple good tackles. The guy gets up, steps a metre to the right to trek our markers out of being in position. Hopgood steps back to mirror him and still gets called for being out of marker. Like, I thought we were meant to be policing the ruck. I mean, God knows that Zach Lomax gets called back to play the ball on the spot every game. Why can't we do that for the opposition?
Yeah. I mean, you're true. That's true. I've lost count of how many times Zach Lomax has been told to come back and play the ball, whether it's been that he's fought the tackle or whether he's got an offload away, whatever the case may be. The you know there's a tip sheet. There is a referee's tip sheet. I'm going to put that out this week. I've done some amendments, John, on the referee's tip sheet for the 2025 edition. I'll be putting that out there this week. So look for that to come out. Maybe you've got your own, when that tip sheet comes out, your own that you want to add to it. So, but look, I think enough now with the referees, because in all honesty, we could go on and on and on. It could have cost the Eels the game. It didn't, thankfully. The Eels' own mistakes could have cost them the game.
Absolutely.
They didn't, thankfully. Some of the things that we saw today at different times defied description. The referees' calls defied description. The Fox trying to...
a near perfect game from Adokar, and then he didn't want to commit to catching that final bomb from the boot of... what's the 5/8 chord? Where is he? Jake Clifford. And, yeah, he stuck the foot out tentatively and spooned it straight to Ruben Cotter. Yeah, very frustrating there because he's been so good all game, the Fox, including a great hustle.
Maybe we should give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe it was a case of he was even smarter than we realised, because he's given the Cowboys an extra set of 6 to eat up the time. He knew they were gonna bomb it in some way. So it just all ate the time up. He probably knew there was going to be an obstruction play that the Cowboys would run.
They'd bungle it
and
somehow.
Then we'd get the penalty and everything would be sweet. So, so maybe we've just got what the Fox did all wrong there. But, John, there was, when you looked at what the Cowboys were able to score from, I think they had 2 tries off a kick and then another one where, unfortunately, the intercept that was thrown by Joe Ash,
the one blemish on his
really
game.
changed the momentum of the game. The Eels were 10-point leaders, comfortably in front, and in the blink of an eye, 2 tries were scored, and it made things very, very uncomfortable there for that last 20, 25 minutes of the game. Look, I guess that's rugby league, and what we like is that Joe Ash, much like Isaiah, does not go into his shell.
No, did not shirk away from the spotlight after that. Continued to make tough catches under immense pressure. Continued to chime in again as a primary playmaker and as a fullback. Did really good in that regard. So really liked that the boys are able to make mistakes and it doesn't impact their game in a negative manner. So really encouraging signs there. Eels battle grimly here. And look, I see it in chat. It's a fair point from Paul there. Imagine getting a Cowboys and then went 40 from 42 completions. Yeah, the Cowboys were on it today.
Yeah.
Like maybe it wasn't their most sharp attacking football, but they made 2 mistakes. And on top of that, we saw Cohen Hess and Jason Tamalolo winding the clock back, playing great football through the middle. They were here for this game, and the Eels had to absorb a lot of pressure. Cowboys had huge gluts of possession in both halves, and that's you mentioned the Josh intercept in the second half. They also dominated possession in general in the first half, despite the Eels being ahead. When all was said and done, the Cowboys had the running and the early favour. So, yeah, Eels had to absorb a lot of pressure in this one, did a good job. Certainly not flawless, certainly a lot of issues they still have to correct. But this was not handed to them on a silver platter. They had to battle hard.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And our concern was always this Cowboys team is full of stars. It was a matter of why are they sitting at the bottom of the table with the roster that they've got? It's almost illogical that they are sitting there. So our concern was always, what if they strike form this week? What if those players suddenly decide that this is the week where it's going to gel for them? And it was almost the case that there was still elements of their play that wasn't at the standard that they needed to be at. But as you said, Todd Payton couldn't have asked for more when it came to completions. They are a team which has, I think, the worst defensive record in the NRL, and yet they refuse to surrender. And the number of times where I think Josh Adokar looked like he got past his opposite, only to have someone desperately.
Scott Drinkwater is generally a pretty flimsy defender, and he made a couple of important tackles today, and very uncharacteristic, but I suppose characteristic when it comes to playing the Eels and people playing out their skins. So, the Cowboys, they did not bend over, they did not fall over, they did not roll over. They were up for the contest and they made the Eels fight hard, and I think that's reflective in the result going down to the literally the final whistle.
John, who have we got in chat there at the moment?
We've got plenty of regulars. I see working in reverse order, there's Mitchy Carp. Yes, he did. Yes, we'll talk about Peyton a little bit, Mitchy, but he did certainly say Moses cheated in the no try. He's got a history of diving. There's Michael Byrne, who was remonstrating about Jack Williams' bizarre decision to have a kick at one point, and I agree from that one. That was ill-advised. Thankfully, the Eels got a good result out of it, but that's a case of good result, bad process. I see Jamie's in there. Good to see Jamie. Riverside was talking about how good it was to see Nick Lenars get his debut. I agree. Great young man there, and Nick Lenars did some good work in our pathways. Craig joined Manly, and then off to the North Queensland Cowboys, where he made his debut tonight. There's Dave Calgaro. Who else is there? Damien, number one chatter. Good work there, Damien. Peter Zed's in chat. Got Chris. Good to see you, Chris. He had some thoughts on the lower grades. Bit of chaos in those games, wasn't there, mate? And who else is there? Carl. Good to see Carl Vedrasco in there. And then Matthias. Got some questions there we can talk about later, boys. So if I've missed the questions, reload them and fire them to me later when I put them back in there. But yeah, plenty of regulars in chat. There's Kel. So yeah, it's a good turnout. Got nearly 100 people watching us right now, actually. Plenty of people hungry.
If Riverside has anything to do with Riverside Brewery, we wouldn't mind a drop or two coming our way. Just saying quietly.
Fred, you're right. Yeah, I mean, Fred's making a point that Talon da Silva was not as bad today as people make him out to be. He had that rough spell at the end, but it shouldn't undersell some of the great work he was doing around the ruck prior to that. But also, it's absolutely a teaching point for him that when the big dog is calling for the ball, and you're talking about a top two halfback in the game and perhaps not number two on a given day, you got to get in the ball. So he'll be better than that. People I think it's fine to criticise Talon's game tonight, but people shouldn't go overboard. He's a young kid finding his way. Still hasn't had a preseason with the Parramatta Eels. Still doing good stuff. So, yeah, look, had some errors. He'll learn from it.
And, look, I think that's where it's important, John. He's just starting to learn not just the players that he's playing alongside, but the calls, the shapes, everything about what he's doing now is new. He hasn't had time to settle in. He hasn't been asked to play New South Wales Cup to become familiar with the setup at the Eels. He's gone straight into first grade. And, yeah, he had some moments today which weren't ideal. But as you said, John, he's a player that we're looking at for next year.
And the other part too is we saw a new configuration for our dummy halves for the first time. There's been a bit of speculation that Riley Smith could be used as a small ball lock forward. We saw that today. We saw Talon and Riley on the field for the same time for the entire second half pretty much, including passages where Dylan Walker was also involved. So Jason Rolls was getting weird with it in a good way. He was experimenting.
Yeah, absolutely. John, I had Clint say something today about Zach Lomax, and I thought to myself it was a pretty fair comment and one that I wanted to use myself and get your opinion on it. His take is that Zach is looking for too many big moments, like trying to create big moments in the game and not worrying enough about just getting the simple execution right. And I thought, you know what? That's probably pretty spot on, because we see the effort that he's putting in, but there's times where, like, for example, having the ball stripped, the number of times that he was competing for the ball, but it was almost like it was too big a play that he was putting in trying to get it, or trying to do just.
Yeah, I understand where you and Quinn are coming from. It's almost like he's putting an unfair burden of expectation on his own game in a sort of requirement to come up with these big plays, where I think he's still doing great ruck work. Like, he went out for 150 metres on the ground today. It was fine. But if he were to strip back and streamline his approach mentally, I think he'd probably get back to, and not saying he's behind, again, he's playing bad football, but he'd get back to his best football. And the other thing too, I still think he's fatigued. It's been a monster year for him in terms of workload between New South Wales and Parramatta and what he's taken on a week-to-week basis. And yeah, and like Josh said, he thinks that Lomax looks emotionally down since the end of State of Origin. I think that
but that's where I think if he looked to simplify,
just strip back and streamline. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
and look, that's a challenge for Jason Riles and Zach
mentally.
Lomax. Yeah, just
mentally.
Yeah.
So anyway, just a thought there, John. In terms of the big moments in this game, what were they for you? First of all, from the Eels' perspective.
Well, obviously you can't go past the field goal for Mitchell Moses. Game-winning moment in and of itself, but just the setup for it too. The Eels drove to the left, probably ill-advised in that regard. Certainly not optimal in regards to your placement for the ball for the conventional direct-on field goal. So Mitchell Moses from a left field alignment just strikes the ball sweet as can be. Like there was never any doubt that was going in, so that was a big one there. I'm just trying to think what else stood out to me. There was the sequence of Joash and Mitchell Moses running down the right where we didn't get that penalty that felt like it was taking the game away from the Cowboys. Just trying to think what else was there. I don't know, because there was so to and fro, wasn't it? Like the Eels were in the ascendancy and then it got taken away. I'm just trying to think of non-officiating big moments, because I just listed about a dozen, obviously, officiating moments that were big spots. Oh, you know, a big one for me was the Jack Williams scramble. I know we sort of chastised him for the ill-advised kick, but he trapped and scrapped a Tom Dearden grubber kick, dived through to get the ball, commando rolled up and found Josh Adokar. That was a big moment in the game, I think, and really emblematic of the sort of hustle you want from your players. And I think that Jack Williams is, while he's had errors in his game, the effort levels have been nothing short of phenomenal.
Yeah, and I think I was hoping that you were going to mention that, John, because that was one that I wanted to talk about as well. Right at that point in time, that was, the Eels were under all sorts of goal line pressure. And that play was, and look, if it wasn't that, and I can't remember which Cowboys player it was, whether it was Drinkwater, but someone just got hold of the Fox again when that pass went
barely, yeah. He had a couple of runs that he was just pulled down on.
Now to Moses and that field goal, the interesting thing was Moses had ended the set. I think it might have been, if it wasn't the set immediately before that, it was only a set, only two sets before that, with one of the most ordinary kicks that you'd ever see him make. He had the entire red zone to aim for with a kick, and instead the kick that he went, it was almost like he was trying to kick it directly to Drinkwater. It was a low trajectory, almost like a long pass that he steadied himself, followed through, and it was as perfect to Drinkwater as you could get. And it was like, this is not a Mitch Moses kick. And I had concerns right then because I'd felt over a series of sets that the Eels had lost their way. And there was one set in particular where we're almost clueless. It was like no one provided any direction in the set. And it might have even been the one that ended up with that kick from Moses at the end, but it was just an awful set. So when he nailed that field goal, for me, it was almost unexpected. I'd said to Clint at the 10-minute mark, do we go for a field goal here? Do we look to get a point ahead, even with 10 minutes to go? And Clint goes, you know what, I would. I was sitting pretty in the red zone. So when it eventually came after, on the back of what had been a previously poor kick, it did take me by surprise. But of course, when he's nailed it, I thought, okay, I think we can do it from here. But John, didn't the team make us do it the hard way? And
to be fair, they should have been up 3 points. I mean, that was a straightforward penalty on Talon De Silva for two high shots that would have put us into I assume a 3-point lead. I think you take the two in that situation and try and milk the clock and take away the 2-point field goal and the penalty goal. But
what's the maximum you can milk the clock?
90 seconds, is it, before clock comes off? I don't know. And it would have left the Cowboys with a little bit of time to try and engineer a try.
I think about a minute 40, something like that, would have been maybe.
Who
maybe
knows with what else we saw from Liam on the night? Who knows when the clock would have stopped? I was looking at chat for some of the other big moments. I mean, it wasn't so much an individual moment, but Luca Moretti was out. I mean, the numbers don't look that good, don't they? 9 runs, 82 meters. That really does a disservice to how hard he was running out there and some of the impact that he had in those early exchanges. I called for a required bounce back game from Jermaine Hopgood. I thought he played really well, Craig. Was much again. We talk about Lomax stripping back and streamlining his approach. We saw that from Jermaine today. After getting it a bit wrong against the Melbourne Storm last week, getting a little bit confused is the wrong word, but just sort of caught in multiple processes in his options attacking the line. He stripped it back. He played really direct. Had the opportunity to play out wide, but chose to run north-south, and I can't knock that. He played good football. So, number of good players and good moments there. And Chris is saying 1 minute 40 seconds is what the wind out on the clock is. And he also made a comment, Craig, for anyone that's looking to attend the HNWP, the Harvey Norman Women's Premiership game on Monday night. It has been moved, common sense prevailing rarely, moved from the New South Wales Rugby League Centre of Excellence in Olympic Park to Eric Tweedow. And I assume it's the same time, Chris. So 7 o'clock kickoff, that would be, or thereabouts. So Eels going to a proper home venue, which is really nice.
Yeah, absolutely. John, I think we're probably starting to get to the point of coming up with our 3-2-1. So if we can ask chat to start throwing their 3-2-1s in as well, because we want to talk about
people are on the front foot
lower grades. We also want to talk about the NRLW game. But just my thoughts on some of the better performers today before I go to the 3-2-1. Look, I thought that it was, like you said, one of the better games from Jermaine Hopgood today. I thought he was quite outstanding on both sides of the ball.
46 tackles, 0 missed, 131 metres from 16 carries. So solid production, solid efficiency, outstanding defensive work. 3 tackle breaks.
Yeah.
That's a bigger number than I thought there. So, and he put the offload away. Wasn't trying to force the ball out there, just played. He's down for 2 penalties, and they are both rubbish, by the way. They were the 2 penalties we talked about. Cohen Hess losing the ball in the play of the ball, and then one of the Cowboys backs moving the ball off the mark to the right, and him getting pinged for not being straight, even though he squared up by following the guy. So he got marked down for 2 penalties there, and I would say they're both rubbish.
Yeah, I would agree. Riley Smith, John, I thought he was, again, outstanding. The amount of work he was doing around the middle of the ruck.
The wheels to save the blow. I mean, I know they were going to score, but to save the immediate blushes of Joash on that intercept, he had the guy covered. I know the Fox was there too, but he had the guy covered.
Yeah. So couldn't have really asked for too much more. And like you, I was surprised by those numbers of Luca Moretti, because to me, like he was making an impression on me, certainly early in the game, like that first half. I thought he was absolutely outstanding. But, it's strange, isn't it, that sometimes the stats tell a more favourable story of players when you maybe weren't giving them enough credit. And in this instance, I don't know that the stats are doing him any justice for the impact that he was bringing onto the game.
Consistently been in line, both on kick returns or kickoff returns and in general rucking. I thought he had a really good game, and just the numbers not really doing him much of a kindness this week.
Yeah, so and there we were critical of Zach Lomax, and as you said, 150 run meters. But I just feel we could get a better production out of Zach just with him simplifying his game a little bit and not putting as much pressure on himself.
I think if you talk about a player stripping it back again and streamlining it using that same catchphrase, Will Penasini, he had his struggles for the first half of the season where he'd get one part of his game right but then struggle in another area. He had his best game of the season prior to getting suspended and has come back from that 3-game suspension, a rubbish 3-game suspension, and played really good football by focusing on doing what he can do best rather than overplaying his hand or forcing his hand in other regards. And I thought, he was really good tonight.
Yeah. So, John, how's the 3-2-1s looking from
we got
the chat?
An exhaustive list. And it goes back a bit. I think Mitchie was the first one in. He's got Luca for his 3, Moses for his 2, Riley for his 1. He was followed up by, is it Dave? Yeah, Dave Calgaro's there. He said 3 for Moses, 2 for Moretti, 1 for Fox. Who's up next? Got some, looks like people talking about signing rumours. Rickstar, 3 for Jermaine Hopgood, good pick. Riley Smith, 2, 1 for Moe. Good 3-1 there. Peter Z says 3 for Moses, 2 for the Fox, 1 for Luca Moretti. And going down, now we've got a big run of them. Okay, let's go quickly. Jamie, 3 for Moses, 2 for Moretti, 1 for the Fox, just. And then we've got Sonic Boom saying 3 for Moses. Did you finish? Oh, there we go. Moses 3, Joash 2, Moretti 1. We got Michael Burns saying Moretti 3, Williams 2, Adokar 1. Matthias is saying 3 for Moses, 2 for Moretti, 1 for the Fox. Seeing a bit of a trend here, aren't we, 60s? Damien, 3 for Moses, 2 for Moretti, 1 for Fox. Kel's going for 3 for the captain Moses, 2 for Smith, 1 for Moretti. The B&G Army Podcast, good to see you guys in chat. 3 for Smith, 2 for Moses, 1 for the Fox. Chris says 3 for Moe, 2 for Williams, 1 for Moretti. And then we got Fred Rankin, 3 for Mitch, 2 for Luca, 1 for Riley. Mike Fleet, how you going, Mike? We got 3 for Moses, 2 for Jack, 1 for Dylan Walker. Good pick there as well. Dylan had a great game at lock forward. And again, you see the difference in the team when he's on and off, don't you, Craig? Really adds a lot of direction to the team. We got any other ones there? We got Brent says 3 for Luca, 2 for the Fox, 1 for Moses. And then Carl going for the last 3-1 here. 3 for Riles, 2 for Luca, 1 for Hopgood. Rare coaches points there.
No, well, there you go.
Or was that meant to be? Is that with the Riley, Carl? I don't know if the autocorrect on the phone's got you going for Riles or Riley.
Yeah, it could be. John, what's your 3-2-1?
I mean, the standards of Mitchell Moses are so high that he has a couple of try assists. He kicks the field goal, and he's chirping at the referee all game while keeping his temper, to his credit. And I'm still not sure if he gets the 3 points, just because, again, the standards are so high. I got to give it to Jermaine Hopgood. I've been hard on him this year, and he was pretty ordinary last week, and I think that was a fantastic bounce-back game. Played the entire first half. What were his minutes at the end? He got 65 minutes. Big stint in the front row for Jermaine Hopgood. Was outstanding defensively, was really good in offense. And, you know, if I'm going to be critical when he has a bad game, I think I should pay his dues when he has a good one.
Yeah, and for all the same reasons, John, I'm going 3 points for Jermaine also. This was really one of his best games, and we needed him to have a game like that today, and he stood up.
The conditions, the opponent. I mean, the fact that we got bloody wind back the clock games from both Colin Hess and Jason Taumalolo, the odds of that happening are just absurd, by the way. Meant that we really needed more than we even anticipated coming into the game, was how important a stint like that from Jermaine would be. So really well done.
And John, the other thing is too, before we do the 2 and the 1, it was a really bold move from Jason Riles to have both Talon De Silva and Riley Smith on the field when you had the likes of
some big rampaging bodies, yeah,
like really taking the game to Parramatta. It was their forwards. They'd obviously been put in the spotlight during the week at training. They'd been told what they needed to deliver. And for the most part, you couldn't criticise the Cowboys forwards. They were really, really stepping up big time. And you mentioned him before, but I want to give a shout out to Nick Linez, who made his first grade debut with the Cowboys today. And Nick was always a wholehearted performer for the Eels in pathways up into Flegg. I think Nick was the captain of the team, wasn't he, with Flegg? And certainly in his, I'm sure in his last season at the Eels.
Last season he was 100% the captain. I believe he captained at Manly too. So obviously, obviously, we knew that he was a great figure on and off the field, and it's been reflected in the positions of authority he's been given with the teams he's played in. And 22 years old, made his NRL debut. Been a bit of a journey to get there, but well done to Nick. Yeah,
so via Manly to North Queensland. messaged Nick the other week when we were trying to confirm that it was indeed his sister playing in the Harvey Norman women's team, and he was able to confirm that for us. But yeah, look, he'd always been great with TCT. Given us plenty of time for a chat at the games, not just about himself, but about what was happening with the team and what have you. And you like to see blokes that do everything they possibly can to give themselves an opportunity at cracking the NRL. He's certainly been that person. Like, he hasn't left a stone unturned to get there, and it mightn't have been with the club that he started off with in the Eels, but the fact that he got there with North Queensland, I was cheering quietly for him, not too much, but cheering quietly for him when he went onto the field today. So, yeah, congrats to Nick. Okay, John, you're 2 and 1 point.
Yeah, look, I overlooked him for the 3. I can't overlook him for the 2. You don't win this game without Mitchell Moses, and I think that's as long and short as it is. It could have been the 3-pointer as well. Game-winning field goal, a couple of try assists, I believe. Had a line break where he was just gunned down, barely stopping him from probably stretching out to the try line. Was a really good game from him.
Yeah, and I can't disagree. We're matching up with the 3 and the 2 because I have to go with Mitch Moses. And for all the same reasons you just said, the Eels don't win that game without him. It's as straightforward as that, and probably should have got the 3 points, but I always like to look for one of the middle forwards laying the platform.
Yeah.
So Mitch goes terribly close, but and probably I wouldn't mind betting in the Dally M's that he gets the top points.
Yeah.
But yeah, for us, we've both gone for the 2 points. And for your 1 point, John?
Could have spun this a few ways. And it feels like because everyone that I could mention here has had a largely great game with maybe like one blemish. Jack Williams had that rather crazy kick. I don't think Dylan Walker made a bad mistake, but the Fox had that last little hiccup under the high ball that nearly cost the Eels. Joash Papali had the intercept, but I thought he was outstanding in general. I think that's maybe where I'm going to go for my 1 point, because the burden of expectation, you talk about how we've gone from Quinn Gufferson to Azara Yongi and what the expectations are for a Parramatta fullback. The Cowboys went after him the entire game, and he was courageous under the high ball. The times where he did drop the ball, I thought it could have been ruled a disruptor, and the other times he still took it despite getting tackled in the air and got no assistance from the officials. He is sharp attacking the either side of the ruck. We're still using him as a primary playmaker too, as a first or second receiver to shape some of our best work. And the biggest thing is that he puts his body on the line rucking it back, mate. 18 carries, 183 metres. He didn't have any line breaks. He wasn't padding stats with a nice little line break. He was doing the hard work. So I'll go for Joash, my 1 pointer.
Yeah, look, I'm going to go with Riley Smith for the 1 point. His work around the ruck tonight was exceptional. His
nice little kick as well, by the way. He had a little dink in behind the left edge that nearly resulted in line dropout.
We saw that little bit more from Riley tonight. A little bit of a running game. The kick that you mentioned, he was really switched on tonight, and I thought he deserved 1 point at least in the in breaking it all down. And look, I want to give a bit of a shout out to Dylan Brown, because he's been much maligned, and
you would not look at him out there. He was chilling. He was vibing. That is quintessential Dylan Brown.
There's been no point since he was told that he probably won't be selected, that I've seen him kick stones or anything like that. He's been involved in the training every week, and obviously this week he was a little bit more heavily involved. So they're always playing Dylan Brown this week, and you know what? He delivered, because I thought he was exceptional in defence. Absolutely exceptional. I think there were 17 tackles, might have been one miss with the 17 tackles. And that's what you come to expect from Dylan Brown. There weren't too many opportunities coming his way in attack, but defensively, I thought he was really, really strong, John. So look, I think that just about wraps up the NRL. We've got a little bit that we do want to cover with the NRLW and the lower grades, but are there any questions?
Yeah, we got a few questions to quickly run through. Ben was talking about this a few times across tonight. He's got some questions about our bench rotations, or Jason Rolls' bench rotations. And he's asking, have we got them right with our timings and probably pairings and whatnot? It's a good question. I mean, that's one of those ones that you can probably do a deep dive in with film and have a look at the timings. And you get if you go to NRL.com and get the little ticket tape thing that tells you when the guys come in and out. What I will say in general is that Riles hasn't had the luxury of finding consistent bench rotations because of the constant injuries. And who was it that was talking about the absence of Sam Tuivasa tonight? Someone in chat was there. I missed it. Sorry, guys. And yeah, that is a classic example. Sam's been the real integral second rotation meter guy, hasn't he? Like the impact meter guy. We'll denied that today, obviously with the knee sprain. So yeah, look, I think if you go back and look at the tape, Ben, it's almost certain. I would be shocked if even if I had the ability to ask Jason Riles himself if he would admit to saying it was great or perfect or ideal. That's one of the biggest struggles of a coach, let alone a rookie coach, is getting those bench rotations correct. And especially because you always you have your best laid plans, and then you go into combat or conflict or the game, and then something crazy happens to completely change the scope of what you were planning for. I'm just trying to think tonight. We saw obviously Riley Smith and Talon Silva. The big issue for Jason Riles is trying to juggle the likes of keeping Riley and Dylan Walker on the field at the same time, Craig. Because as I think Chris was saying in chat, the difference when they're on the field together working to help steer the team around and when they're off is quite stark. And I think you see that drop in intensity and organisation of the Eels through the middle. And yeah, that's probably the biggest challenge for Jason Riles, is to find a way to keep them fit, healthy and ready to rip in, but also keep the team up to scratch.
John, what I will say about Jason Riles and the interchange is he doesn't have a set pattern, or there doesn't seem to be anything set.
Yeah, we saw Riley play the full 40 minutes. Yeah, full 40 minutes into the second half, whereas last week Talon Silva came on and played more minutes. So he definitely has I don't know if it's horses for courses or some sort of reactionary or flexible approach, but yeah. And again, you go back and look at the tape and do the reviews, I'm sure you'll be able to point out some issues or indiscretions in terms of the bench management. Rugby league is very difficult in that regard. So
I think the horses for courses, John, I think it's a bit of both. I think the horses for courses comes in with where he might change who he starts and who he doesn't start, where he makes late changes. And then I think he's playing what's unfolding in front of him and making adjustments on the run in terms of how many minutes some are playing when he's making those changes. So, you know what? I think that's something that I like to see from a coach, that they don't just stick rigidly to, it's the 35-minute mark. This is where I'm going to change my dummy halves so that my second dummy half will get 5 minutes before half time and then 15 or 20 minutes after half time. I think it's basically how the match is unfolding and the decisions that he makes from there. So I'm sure every coach goes in with a rough plan, but you do want to see adjustments made as they go. Any other questions, John?
I'm seeing some discussion about Jason Riles saying that we're planning to sign 2 players. I'm just trying to get some clarity on where those comments were made. If anyone in chat knows where the genesis of those comments were, there you are, BJ Army. Where did Jason Riles say that? Because I know you were talking about it before up at the top of chat. What's the context of Riles saying we're going to sign 2 players? Because, there are obviously some balls in the air in regards to players on loan and players that might be moved on in the top 30. But right now we have 1 top 30 spot available for next year, is my understanding. But again, there are some pretty clear things to cross off there. So we can get. I'll find another question to talk about. We get some clarity on that. That'd be good. Any other chat questions that we can talk about? Jazz says he wishes Dylan could somehow back out of his Knights contract and stay at the Eels. He should not have left. I don't think he wants to go. I'm pretty confident he didn't want to go.
I'm positive he doesn't want to go, John. And
Yeah.
if you saw him, if you saw the scenes in the sheds singing the victory song, and Dylan seemed to be one who was enjoying it the most, I reckon. So, look, I think it's a shame. I think it's like you. It was something that he didn't want to have to do, but he was going to be crazy if he didn't accept it.
Yeah.
And I think he's handled this. Like, I know there's been criticism about Dylan and his form, but he's ended up handling this so well, and he's ended up like he didn't want to leave early, and that maybe that didn't help us in any way in terms of clearing a little bit of cap space in that regard. But I look at it this way: if he had gone early, we would have been in a tougher position tonight with team selections. And I think as things stands now, I'm going to be surprised if Dylan doesn't play the rest of the season.
Yeah, I mean,
spot.
Given what seems to be happening in regards to Bailey Simonson, it's pretty much that, or put Jordan Sam running to the centres. And look, Riles hasn't been opposed to putting Jordan out there, but it's looking more and more obvious that Jordan is a back rower primarily that can help you in the centres. And maybe it's just best for his development to stay in the back row right now. And beyond that, maybe you might see a debut thrown to the likes of Raz Nava or Richard Penasini at some point in the handful of games we've got remaining. But yeah, I'd say Dylan Brown probably plays out the season in the centres as it stands.
Yeah, agreed. Any other questions here?
Sinkers was asking about Matt Doorey's minutes and whether Riles doesn't trust him to play in a greater capacity. I think he's down for 22 minutes tonight. Where is he? 23 minutes. There you go, rounded up by one. Look, I think that, again, this might be horses for courses or some talk about the rotation policy. I feel like in prior games this year, Doorey's been leveraged for pretty solid stints. What you do see with Matt Doorey is that he is 100% effort. He is all go, and maybe not the most efficient user of his stamina resources at times, Craig. He goes, balls to the wall, hell to leather 100% of the time, all the time. And it leads to him maybe burning his resources a bit too fast, which is why coaches might leverage him on small stints. But he's having a good year. He is really having a good year, isn't he? Just wholehearted efforts off the interchange bench. And you can see why the coach is playing him, whether it's in as many minutes as Sinkers would like, because he's given it his all.
I don't think he's ever been an 80-minute player, John, whether it be coming through pathways or into lower grades or his time at the Bulldogs. I think he's always been an interchange forward, or if he started the game, that he's been part of the rotation. He's even when he's played back row, and coaches have liked back rowers to play as close to 80 minutes as they can. That's never been Matt Doorey. So, but what we have seen from Matt Doorey this year is that capacity to break the line.
Yep,
he's just an awkward conveyance for opposing teams to tackle, especially when he builds up a head of steam. So, I think, like you, I think he's had a really, really good season. Any other questions?
No, just more signing speculation, which we can cover later. Again, there's the news podcast, a lot of his stuff too, which we can always do a more in-depth chat about the latest rumours and happenings. Some talk about a swap for Khan Pereira and Bailey Simonson, it looks like. Josh Curran's name I see there as well. Kelmer did come on for Charlie Geimer, correct, yeah. Played on the right edge slot. Actually, we ran into Charlie's family up from Temora in Sterlo, so it was good to have a catch-up with the Geimers out there supporting their boy, wearing the red kit as well from the Temora team out there. But yeah, Charlie's been really good ever since going back to Cup, just to tune up and get back to his best, both physically and mentally. He's come back into the NRL and really taken that opportunity with both hands and done really good work.
Yes. So, John, let's now move into the NRLW match that was played late this evening.
Oh, boy.
And it's unfortunately, it's not great result.
A golden opportunity to leapfrog their opposition into the top 5, top 4 has gone through the Eels' hands, hasn't it?
Look, it was. Look, I'm going to be honest, John. It was a disappointing performance.
There's no other way to spin it than disappointing. Yeah, we know the Eels were down some really important troops this week, but despite that, they put themselves in the position to win up 10-0, and then they just let it slip through their hands with some, unfortunately, middling defense, and again, some suboptimal play selection from key players, I think.
Yeah. It was. We certainly got punished for some errors that were made, but I thought it was a game where the Eels should have had a lot more control of what was taking place out there, but the Cowboys' tactics were quite obvious. They really enjoyed digging in behind the ruck and straightening the attack wherever possible. Their tactic of just being a lot more direct eventually was able to reap the rewards. But let's face it, there were 2 errors made from experienced players, which directly led to Cowboys tries to come back. And that I'm talking about Abby Church and Zali Faye. So both were kicks that were dropped, and the Cowboys punished the Eels straight after those errors were made. And essentially that really swung the momentum of the game. Look, there was some...
And the other thing too is I think it's, again, you can't sugarcoat it any other way. Rachel Pearson's in a real slump right now. With Cassie Toihiku out, they're leveraging her experience and ability to make the correct play more than ever. And she's not quite there. I don't know, if it's... form, or if it's a slump, or if it's a more longer term concern, but it's a really tough spot because it felt like last year they were making some great strides in their ability to spread the ball and attack from different angles. And look, this year they've been playing predominantly on wet tracks, it feels like. So maybe that's something we should consider. Again, it's not an excuse, but a consideration. They haven't really played on a dry track at maybe the Newcastle game. Just trying to think.
What about the Canberra game? That was
a dry track, and that was the best football, I suppose. Yeah. But the Gold Coast, the Warriors game was obviously a very slippery track. Obviously tonight, so that they're obviously the part of it. Their struggles are with conditions, but there is obviously some macro issues beyond that are definitely hamstringing the team. And it's frustrating because last year Steve Giles had him playing such positive football, and I'm not sure what's happened this year, whether disruptions and injuries and maybe a lack of confidence and form have really impacted them, but they have gone a step backwards or 2.
Yeah, there certainly isn't the cohesion there in the attack.
And it's funny because players like Ruben Charrington have taken a step forwards. They've just as a team, it's not there.
Yes, that's correct. So we're seeing improvement from some individuals, but we're just been seeing things looking just a bit clunky, especially like the attack. It's just not gelling. And then when you saw like the Cowboys, when they looked to spread the ball tonight, I was talking about they were getting lots of meters driving down the field, going in behind the Eels ruck and playing quite direct. But when they got into the red zone, some of that ball movement was really, really impressive. Like it was sharp. And the wingers were given opportunities on the outside of the Eels wingers to get to the corners. And they obviously delivered in getting those tries. But, it seemed like we weren't able to do the same thing ourselves. And there were times where we just looked a lot slower than the Cowboys. And it wasn't as if, how can I put it? It wasn't as if we were a long way off the mark, but because the thing was, that was a game that was there to be won.
Yeah, and
ultimately it came down to those couple of
this season
errors.
For the NRLW has been a study in how quickly the small stuff adds up to be a big or insurmountable total, doesn't it? Where they've won a few games, of course, but the losses they've had have been death by 1,000 cuts, and suddenly you're bleeding everywhere. And we saw that tonight as well, where up 10-0, wet conditions, they had the ascendancy despite their issues and personnel absences. But they just fell apart in the second half, and the Cowboys swamped them in possession on the back of Parramatta's errors. I don't get second half splits on NRLW on the NRL.com, Craig, but their total possession in the game was 52%, which was because of a lion's share of possession in the second half. And our girls just crumbled a bit there, and it's unfortunate. A bit of clarity from the BGA podcast in regards to those comments. Apparently, Jason Riles made the 2 spots comment in the pregame show on Fox, I guess. Was that? Yeah, it would have been on Fox. It's the... Oh, no, it could have been Channel 9, I suppose. Channel 9, yeah. Because I saw a picture of him talking to Fittler and John, so that would be Channel 9. So I have to try and find that footage to make my own interpretation of it, Craig. But looks like we've got 2 spots available per Riles heading into next year.
Yeah, well, if we've got 2 spots, then that must be 2 spots outside of Brendan Hands and Ryan Madison.
No, because you can't count them. Yeah.
Until they sign on the dotted line for an ESL club, they have to be counted as Eels players for next year. John, just back onto the NRLW tonight. There was a couple of really tough calls that went against the Eels. One was, and they were both challenges that were made. So the first was the Eels challenged where the on-field ref had ruled that the Cowboys player had lost the ball, and when the Cowboys challenged and the replay went up, it looked quite clear that she'd lost control of the ball.
She ball planted. She then incorrectly played the ball, so it was strikes on 2 accounts there. And they've got Tanika Todd-Hunter for coming back through the ruck of her foot, where I don't think she even touched the ball.
No, she didn't. She didn't. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, did they go down and score off that set?
Possibly, yeah. I think they might have. Just trying to think. What's my tail of the tape here? You got
because the other thing is too that it should have then been the Eels in possession 45 metres out from the Cowboys line. Then there was also where Elsie Albert challenged because the Eels she was ruled to have lost the ball, and when the challenge was shown, you could see that she got pushed down by 2 Cowboys players. One pushed her head down, the other gave her a push in the back, and so when she's lost her feet, the balls then come spewing out. And to me, it was as blatant as you can get that she was pushed down in the ruck.
Yeah, the hand on the head.
But of course, it was.
But then, I mean, I see some criticism of Zali Faye in chat. She was very early on. She got penalised for that. That new KPI point of emphasis is obviously the imbalance play the balls, or not play the ball with balance. She got up, correctly struck the ball, and then fell over. So she'd legally played the ball, and they still nailed her for an imbalance play the ball because she fell over from there. If she's gotten to her feet and strikes the ball, she actually struck the ball, didn't just make an attempt to play it for her foot, and the ball goes backwards, and then she trips over without impeding the marker. What is there to penalise? And it's the same with Elsie Albert. Hand on the head, pushing her down, trying to get to her feet. Maybe there was an argument she ball planted, but they didn't mention that. They said that she didn't get to her feet with correct balance. So it's obviously a point of emphasis that they're scouting out in their tip sheets and their pre-game process, because they're not properly evaluating these rucks on their own individual merit. And the Eels copped it both ways in that regard. Once against them with the challenge, then once against them with their own challenge. So very, very frustrating.
John, where to for the Eels NRLW here? Because we've got some girls who are playing some outstanding football. You mentioned Ruben Cherrington. I don't think she's ever looked better out on the field. I obviously the likes of Riverlea Arlaw and Tess McWilliams have made a tremendous transition to senior rugby league, and we're without some big name players as well. So we understand that we're down a little bit in troops. But where are we at?
Yeah, well,
Mahalia Murphy as well. I thought she's been playing really, really strong.
Yeah, Mahalia's been good.
And she's come back from injury.
And that's the frustration, is that you can pick apart all these really good individual efforts, with the odd blemish here and there. We mentioned Ruben Charrington. She's having a real breakout year. And we know that Abby Church, despite the bad era, Craig, is one of the game's premier fullbacks.
Well, she's Origin.
Reigning Origin champion, exactly. We saw Brianna Eels go for over 150 metres, Elsie Albert nearly 170 metres. They're individually.
Elsie Albert was ridiculously good.
That hit. How about that hit as well, by the way?
Oh,
brought the thunder.
My goodness.
Look
at the, like, those, her and Brianna, like, for them to get those sorts of run meters where the only one that really competes with them, Mahalia, to going over 100 run meters, was Abby Church. You've got no one else that's getting close to it. We normally see centres or wingers starting to get up there with some of the yardage work. But those girls were just outstanding today in the middle. So where to from here, John? What do they got to do?
I think
with the roster?
Yeah, look, challenging for the premiership. I'm not going to say it's impossible, because you should never say impossible in the confines of sport, given what we've seen in various codes, including rugby league, and some of the incredible runs that teams can go on despite, again, personnel issues or lack of talent or bad luck. Of course, the 09 Eels always come to mind quickly in that regard, but Leicester City in the EPL as well. Things can happen. But in order for that to happen, again, going back to your idea, your philosophy, your concept that you proposed for Zach Lomax, the girls almost have to strip it back. They've got to find an identity. They've got to curb these errors. They've got to curb these defensive lapses. And they've got to do it quick, smart. We saw them being capable of playing fantastic, expansive football last year and aggressive swarming defense, like two fantastic cornerstones on both sides of the ball to forge your identity. This year that they've been pulled betwixt and between that real north-south emphasis. We've got guys or girls like Elsie Albert and Brianna Eels and Tess McWilliams and Riverly Arlaw doing great work in the ruck and looking to spread the ball left to right without really having a plan. And I don't know where you begin with that. It's obviously in the domain of Steve Georgalis and his coaching staff to figure it out quickly, but they're obviously going to do it hard without some of the key players they're missing. But
yeah, something is breaking down, John.
They've got to identify where the breakdown is, because Ruben Charrington's killing out a dummy half. Elsie Albert has been probably the best prop in the competition. I know she's had a couple of drops here and there, but her work around the ruck has been insane. Individually, there's all these pieces, but they're not put together collectively, and that is one of the great coaching challenges, isn't it? Is being able to identify where it's falling apart and where it's not quite working, and be able to iron it out as quick as yesterday. And I think they're going to finish this round. Is it sixth place? Yeah, I'll say they're down to seventh on points differential. So they're 2 points behind the Warriors and for and against. So it's not an egregious difference there in their points differential. They can absolutely be a factor in the finals here, but to mix it with the likes of the Roosters, the Broncos, and the Knights, they've got to find something that isn't there right now, something that is missing, something that is greater than the sum of the parts.
Yeah, and given they've just dropped a game to a team that they beat last season, that's a little bit for mine. I'm hoping it doesn't come back to haunt them. John, very quickly, I'm going to do a 3-2-1 for the NRLW. I'm going to go 3 points for Elsie, 2 points for Ruben, and 1 for Brianna.
I will swap around the 2 and the 1 there. I will go 3 for Elsie, 2 for Brianna. The front rowers, I think, were the pick of the players in the park. And then Ruben had some really nice touches. Obviously scored that try, had another line break. There is an ideal where we get that fully functioning spine, including Ruben's terrific form, and you can just see how good these Eels could be. But we're not there right now, and she's having a great year.
Yeah. Okay. So now let's talk about yesterday, the Jersey Flegg. Man, like, it was a rough start, conceding 2 tries in the opening 10 minutes of the game.
6 points in the first 6 seconds, it felt like.
Yes. But then just the work of the forwards in getting over the top of the Melbourne team, Melbourne coming top of the table in Jersey Flegg. That was an enormous win by the Eels, especially given how many SG Ball graduates, like 2025 SG Ball graduates, not 2024 or 2023, 2025 SG Ball graduates are out there and playing in the forwards. And I just thought it was there was so much to like about what the forwards did out there on Saturday.
32 seconds. Chris has given us clarity on that, the official accreditation for that try. 32 seconds. So I think Kirasami Avara still got it covered. He was in, 11 or 12 seconds in that game against Brisbane. But yeah, like you said, Craig, the wherewithal and the staunch stoicness to concede 10 points against the table-topping Storm and to battle it out from there. They did really, really well. Really well. And this is a team short on players.
Yeah, shout out to some players. Obviously, player like Chris Petrus is catching the eye. That try that he scored late in the game where he just powered through the edge of the ruck and drove back towards the posts and launched himself over the line for that try was something to behold. But outside of that, there was...
That's a big boy.
Yeah. Ryder had that really tough start to the game.
We mentioned Joash, right, and the ability to bounce back from an error. Ryder really encapsulated that, didn't he? It doesn't get worse than dropping the ball cold off the kickoff and watching the opponent winger scoop it up and score. That is the definition of rock bottom.
We've spoken in the past about how his brother Blaze had that capacity to put a mistake behind and just go with the next play, like not even dwell on it. And he really showed that because he took that game, that physical battle to the Melbourne forwards. And just remember, we're talking about someone that's turning 18 this year. This is an under 21s competition.
Yeah, where serious age development happens, exactly.
But he's become huge this year, Ryder Talangi. I don't know how much bigger he's going to get. But
still light in his feet as well, which is really encouraging. So great prospect there. And
great aggression, John. Towards the end, he ended up being sin bin.
Yeah, got a bit chirpy after Chris Petrus scored the Chris Petrus, or was it the Yeti Samuel try? Samuel. It was the Samuel try, was it? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I think so. I think it was the try that put the Eels in front.
Yeah.
But
that was the Petrus try, and he got real chirpy on that one. Yeah. And he and the back rower Cooper Clark, was it? I believe it was the back rower off the interchange. Yeah, both got sent to the bin for 10 minutes. But yeah, in general, he controls his aggression really well. He's really light in his feet. I mean, the Talangi bloodline is obviously a great NRL bloodline. Blaze is going from strength to strength this year for Penrith, which sucks as a Parramatta fan, but I am happy for him because he's a good kid and was a great prospect for the Eels. Penrith did a good job getting under our guards to sign him.
John Damascus Nemia.
Yeah, well, we've called his name plenty of times this year, haven't we? I think he set up Matty Hunter's second try for a great run through the middle. Was just really physical through the middle. And look, that's where the Eels have been at their best, is this dynamic forward pack. And you mentioned a number of them already, Ryder and Chris Petrus, but Damascus, who has been starting for most of the year and just being forced back to the bench by a combination of injuries on his own account, and then obviously the rising form of some of these young bulls around him. He's still carving out really good minutes off the interchange.
Yeah. And any other forwards that caught your eye?
Trace Beatty, another SG ball.
Oh, product. Yeah.
Best game in blue and gold for him.
Played from the edge. He normally plays middle, doesn't
He's been a bit flexible for the Eels in the SG ball, played a bit of both. He's another one that I thought looked bigger. I don't know if he's been really aggressively hitting the gym. He looked bigger than I recall from him in the SG ball earlier this year, and that was by far his best game. Not that he's played bad games, but that was such a great game. He was bending the line and busting the line. It feels like every other carry.
He brought the impact.
Yeah. Was a late call up into the game in the back row, with Dom Destratus kicking out from the edge into the centres, and did a fantastic job. Just huge impact. Max Popo again, another solid game at lock forward. Yeti Samuelo scored the match winner. He's another big unit from New Zealand. Good physicality. And yeah, I mean, the two halves played really composed, Craig, Matty Hunter and Josh Lynn. We know Matty Hunter's off for the Knights at the end of the year. Still playing good football, bagged the double in this one. Is still captain the team, and that is again a reflection of the esteem that he is held in by his coach and teammates that he holds a C next to his name. And the other player who's enjoying a really nice year, took a while to get into the team because I think he might have been nicked up at the start of the year, but he's a back rower turned centre, and Will Lewis continues to do really nice things out wide. Big rangy prospect, and I don't know if long term he's going to be a centre or he kicks back into the edge, but he's doing some good things out there.
Yeah, and I think that's a good call, John. So that was a really crucial win for the Eels. It
Chris says it's
consolidating.
Final home game next weekend for the Flegg, I believe. So good one to get out there at Kelly. It'll be Kellyville, I believe. I'll have a quick gander. Maybe Chris can tell us in the meantime. Parramatta Eels next week at home against the Cronulla Sharks. Yeah, then on the road to New Zealand and Melbourne. Good Lord.
That's quite a finish.
4v2, 4v11, 4v1. So we play the Storm again twice in a month.
Yes. So, John, are we still in fifth place on the ladder there?
We are maybe fourth. We are up to fourth. Yeah, hot in the tails of the Penrith Panthers, who have... Do they have a draw? No, it's just points differential separating us, and our points differential is not near theirs. But we are on 32 points in fourth place on points differential. The Raiders are 1 point behind us. Then there is a 5-point buffer between us and sixth place in the Bulldogs. And we are 3 points behind the Melbourne Storm. We play the Sharks and the Storm alongside the Warriors. So we almost control our own destiny to go to the minor premiership here. Penrith are the wild card there. But with games against the Storm and the Sharks, who are 1 and 2 respectively on the ladder, we can, I think, a top 2 finishes within our own control here, maybe.
Yeah. So where's the Sharks in relation to?
1 win ahead of the Parramatta Eels.
Okay.
I
guess that's very much there. And of course, the other win we were watching little bits of as we were preparing for our appearance in the Leagues Club. The Eels prevailing 32-30 over the North Sydney Bears in New South Wales Cup.
We were trying to get this one on the Bar TV coverage while we were preparing for our show. And we're like, wait, what just happened there? Why is there a stoppage in the game? We saw a poor Bears player get his absolute, I think his ribs must be being shattered in the contest for a short kickoff. And Arpa Twiddle, the hero on this one, Craig.
Yeah, so conversion from the sideline late in the game for the Eels were behind 30-24. And I'm trying to think who scored the try in the corner.
Tungor went over.
Was it a Raz?
In the corner, it was Jake Tungor. It was a cutout pass from Ronald Volkman down the left that found his winger, who beat the contact in the corner to get the ball down.
So, first of all, we've had Arpa Twiddle step up to nail this conversion from the sideline just to get the points even. Then the Eels end up in the last, after full time, he's got a shot from for penalty goal. He's like 40 metres out. He's 10 to 15 metres in from touch, and he nails it. And obviously pandemonium breaks out with the Eels players there, as again another important win. Not that the Bears were in contention for finals football, but the Eels again had some last minute changes, and we spoke today about the players that aren't available for the Eels, and through the combination of injuries and players who've been allowed to leave during the season, the Eels have lost 10 top 30 players during the season. In terms of, they're currently down 10 players, with 4 that are on the injured list and 6 that have moved on. And that's not including players from the Cup who would probably be starters, like Will Latu, for example, who's currently injured right now. And that also spoke to players from Jersey Flegg who've had to be called up to Cup, like a Raz Nanva, who was a late inclusion for Bailey Simonson, and obviously Lorenzo Talatina, who was again at 5'8" in today's match. So, John, a great result there.
There is some concern about Saxon Pryke, it looks like. Chris is saying that he might have been stretched off a broken ankle, which would be a real shame for what has been a really good year for young Saxon. If that is the case, obviously we wish him a speedy recovery. I think a broken ankle still puts him in line for a preseason return at this point, but it would rule him out from the finals, which is devastating, given that he's really done a great job to entrench himself in a good Cup team. So maybe it was Saxon or Tyrese, Chris is saying. I'll have to chase this one up.
Yeah.
Either way, obviously our thoughts go out to him because both players were having fantastic years.
So, John, look, we've been going now for about an hour and a quarter. So that's probably about where we should be pulling the plug in terms of the live instant reaction, unless there's any late questions from chat.
No, it looks like it was Tyrese. Chris is just clarifying. Thank you for that, mate. Unfortunate news, of course, but good to be able to have some clarity on the situation. Hopefully Tyrese has a speedy recovery, Craig, because he's had a good year.
Yeah, he absolutely has. Okay, John, mate, thank you for tonight, having it all ready for us to go at 8:15. Thank you to everyone in chat who's been there tonight and contributed to this live podcast.
Big
Thank
win
you
for
to
the
our
Parramatta
sponsors.
Eels. Mm-hmm.
Yep, our sponsors, Star Partners Real Estate, Auburn, Narellan and Parramatta, and of course the home of the Eels, Parramatta Leagues Club. We might have forgotten to do the shout out at the start of the show.
Just tactical for the extra marination on the shout out there. And yeah, look, the Eels lift themselves to 13th on the ladder, Craig. Big result tonight. Leapfrog the Cowboys, 2 points behind the West Tigers, the Dragons, and 4 points behind the Seagulls. They're not going to make the top 8, but they can climb as high as 10th now. There's a lot to play for the Parramatta Eels, so big result.
Well, I said at the start of the year that I thought we could finish anywhere between
in that range.
12.
Took us a bit, but we're getting there. We're starting to find the feet. Starting to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. And as well, anyone that's watching this on YouTube, if you can give it a like and subscribe, that would be greatly appreciated. Jump in with a comment if you like. And John, I think that just about wraps things up. And as I always say, go you mighty Eels.